Hello, welcome to Thursday's Notts Today with me, Emma Caldwell. Hope you're well today. Here's what's on the show. First, we've been to the Notts Hospice looking to reach for the stars with its annual fundraising appeal.
My wife is never out of my thoughts anyway, and it takes me back. I get a bit emotional, I can't help it. But yes, it does, and it only helps me with her memories.
We'll have more on that in just a few minutes. Plus, we'll be finding out more about Nottinghamshire County Council's financial position. The authority is reporting a budget gap of as much as £76 million over the next few years. But one of its finance bosses joins us shortly to talk through the plan to bridge this hole. And we're speaking to some of the winners from last night's Pride of Gedling Awards, celebrating those contributing to their community.
We've said this evening, the Rotary Club's been helping out for 35 years, and it's the first time we've ever had any recognition like this. This is worth its weight in gold.
And in sport, we'll be looking ahead to Notts County's return to action this weekend. They're facing fellow promotion hopefuls Doncaster Rovers up in Yorkshire, with both sides heading into the game around the promotion places in League Two. Plus, later on, we're going to be heading to a weekly session helping older people to stay warm, fed and happy over the winter.
Don't call me on Wednesday because I'm at luncheon club on Wednesday. I work everything around it, so I look forward to coming over here because that's my only time that I get out and socialise.
All there and loads more coming up just for you. But first, and a lot of talk over the past week, of course, has been around the national budget, including measures promised by Chancellor Rachel Reeves at the end of last month. But what about closer to home? Well, we recently reported on how Nottinghamshire County Council faces a potential budget gap of up to £76 million over the next 3 years, caused in part by soaring demand on services like adult and children's social care. And today, Tory cabinet members met to discuss the council's budget. And joining me now to explain the authority's current position is Councillor Richard Jackson, who's in charge of finance. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. So, Nottinghamshire County Council faces a potential budget gap of £76 million over the next 3 years. That figure seems very high to me. What's causing this?
So, our total annual budget is 660 million, so obviously 76 million would be a large number. It's relative to the size of our budget, but we've been working through the details of the Chancellor's budget from last week, and as ever with these things, the devil's in the detail, and it takes some time to work that through and to understand exactly what the financial consequences are on the County Council's finances. It does leave us with an issue. The increases in national living wage coupled with the increases in national insurance contributions, quite complicated, but in total give us a net additional spending pressure of about £31 million. We're determined to find that not through reducing services and not necessarily just through taking the easy option and increasing people's council tax, but by making efficiencies, by changing the way that we do things, delivering services differently, doing things like moving out of County Hall, for example, big expensive old building to run, moving to somewhere far more cost effective and fit for purpose. And we will close that gap. I was able to report today that we've closed that 3-year gap to something around £16 million. Now, if we were to take the option of increasing council tax to the maximum, we don't want to do that. Chancellor's given us the option of increasing council tax. The limit was 2%, now talking about 5%, but that's the last thing we want to do if we can possibly avoid it. But we do have to balance our services against the need to raise taxes.
And of course, well, that sounds fairly positive. Obviously, you'll remember this time last year, your neighbours at Nottingham City Council issued a Section 114 notice effectively declaring bankruptcy. Do you foresee this happening to the County Council?
No, we don't. We're a million miles away from that, and we're confident in that. We've made the difficult decisions. People will have seen some of the things that Nottingham City Council's had to do in the 12 months since they effectively declared bankruptcy. We've not got to that extreme, but we've made some really tough decisions over the last 7 years or so that have kept our finances on an even keel, and we're confident we can do that into the future.
And of course, the budget came out a week yesterday. You've had a week to go over it. Today, Tory cabinet members discussed that budget. Following that meeting, what is the authority's current position?
So our position is, and I think it's a fair one, it's saying that we were already dealing with the financial pressures internally and things we were expecting in terms of inflation and extra demand on our services over the next 3 years. But the government has made political decisions which have landed another £31 million worth of costs onto the council. We think it's only fair that they should contribute a large part of that to us. I don't want to go and ask the taxpayers, the council taxpayers of Nottinghamshire, to fund those political decisions, nor do I want to take services away from them to pay for it either. So our ask over the next couple of months, because we find out at the end of next month what our financial settlement from government is going to be. So our ask of government over that time and the lobbying we'll be doing will be, just treat us fairly and fund at least, the majority of the extra burdens that you put on us.
And of course, we couldn't have you here. The budget, of course, has had a lot of conversation over the past week or so. But over the last couple of days, of course, Councillor Ben Bradley is stepping down. What's your reaction to that?
Look, Ben will be a loss to the County Council. I've enjoyed working with him. I've known him for a long time. I actually worked with him in different roles over the last 10 years or so. He's made the decision that he's made for personal reasons, and I know he's talked about that. As a council, we have to move forward. We have to decide what direction we're going in. We've got elections next year, which are really important as well. And that's a decision that our group will make over the next 2.5 weeks or so.
And of course, we will be talking about this later on, but we heard today that Councillor Sam Smith has been the first person to enter the race to become the authority's new leader. Will you be putting your hat in?
Look, to be honest, I've been working really hard over the last few days on the budget implications and the meeting that we've had today, and I've been flat out all day today with meetings. What I would say is I've been really grateful to several colleagues who've asked me, and one or two have told me that I should stand, and one has insisted that I stand, actually. Haven't made a decision. I will do over the next few days.
OK, we will look forward to that. And if people are just going back to the budget, if people are worried about what's going on for them, specifically in Nottingham, where can they find information about what's going on with the County Council at the moment?
Yeah, so if they go to the County Council's website, or if they go onto the MyNots app, download it onto the smartphone, we're in the middle of a budget consultation. It actually ends on Sunday. Fill that in. It takes a bit of time, but we do take all of the responses into account when it comes to setting our budget. We don't need to set the budget till the end of February, so we have time to respond to what people's priorities are and what people tell us in the budget consultation. So I'd be really grateful if as many people as possible go online and fill that in.
Do you know, I had a reminder email about that just today, so I will go on and fill that in. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Appreciate it. Moving on now, and Nottingham Hospice, which supports its residents through terminal illnesses with sessions like wellbeing and counselling, has just launched its Light Up a Life appeal. Nottinghamshire Hospice on Woodborough Road is giving local people a chance to shine a light on the lives of loved ones who have died through donations towards the hospice's vital care. These funds will help the services to continue their incredible work, including help for one man who started going there with his wife before becoming reliant on the service himself.
This is a place for many to spend the final months of their lives with a smile on their face, playing card games, quizzes and some all-important one-to-one counselling too. The hospice has launched its biggest campaign of the year in a push to get more donations during a tough winter period. Frank Shaw, one of their longest serving members, started coming here with his late wife during her tough last moments facing breast cancer. She died in February 2022, and since then Frank's been dealing with facial cancer and serious motor neuron disease of his own too. He says coming here always reminds him of the fond memories he shared with his wife, with the hospice's upcoming appeal an emotional one for him.
My wife is never out of my thoughts anyway, and it takes me back. I get a bit emotional, I can't help it. But yes, it does, and it helps me with her memories. And the memories that we had, happy times here, as well as being at home with her. We're all in the same boat. We've all been through grief, and we're there together, grieving, but in a nice way, remembering them. And that's what it's all about.
Part of the appeal means people can sponsor a star dedicated to a loved one. These will be on display in the installation for others to learn more about people's stories.
This year we've got a dedicated night sky, so you can sponsor a star to go into that sky, which would have the person's name in memory. But also we're having an installation within the hospice that, again, once you dedicate that name to the person, it will be in the hospice.
Sessions just like this one requires funding to run every week. And while the appeal doesn't have a target, the hospice needs to raise £4 million to stay afloat, with most of its funding coming from donations.
It costs over £4 million a year to run our services, and that's only set to increase with inflation and the effects of the budget that was announced recently as well. So we're looking to raise as much as possible through Light Up a Life, and it's a really great chance for people to give back and remember their loved ones at the same time.
Members here continue to urge the public to donate, so grief can stay at bay and they can cherish little things in life.
That's the thing about this place. The one thing that you won't find here is a miserable face. Never. Ever.
Jordan Guerrero for Knots TV.
Thank you, Jordan. It's an incredible place. Nice to see a little cameo from Mark Deno there as well. Time now for some more of your news headlines. First, and a pedestrian has died following a suspected hit and run in Nottingham. The incident happened on Hucknall Road in Carrington just before 11 o'clock last night, with the road closed throughout most of Thursday morning. Nottinghamshire police say a man in his 20s died in the collision whilst the driver failed to stop. Police have since arrested 3 men, aged 21, 23 and 27, on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving. The force said anyone with more information or indeed CCTV footage should call them on 101. Next, and emergency services have warned the public after fireworks were thrown at fire engines and police who were attending reports on bonfire night. Police and fire crews attended multiple incidents around Radford on Tuesday evening and into early Wednesday morning as well. And that includes bins being set on fire outside student accommodation block and a kitchen in the same block being set alight when a firework was pushed through a window. Emergency services then became the target of fireworks themselves, though thankfully nobody was injured. Right, let's take a short break now. Go and grab yourself a cuppa. Come back after the ads as we're heading to some of Gedling's most inspiring stories. And we're going to be hearing why Nottingham Wildlife Trust needs your help in repairing an old bridge. All that and your latest sport, news and weather for across Nottingham, all on the way next. Hello, welcome back to Thursday's show with me, Emma Caldwell. I hope you're all right today. Here's what's happening in Notts today. First, and Nottinghamshire County Councillor Sam Smith has become the first person to enter the race to become the authority's new leader. The Newark East councillor is also the authority's cabinet member for education and special educational needs. He's announced his leadership bid after current Tory leader Ben Bradley has announced he's stepping down following a challenging year. Councillor Smith said he wants to become one of the youngest council leaders in the country. A new leader will be formally announced by the council next month. Next, and Nottingham Trent University's state-of-the-art design building has officially been opened to the public. The Design and Digital Arts building has become a landmark facility for the university's city campus and is aimed at being the centre of emerging creative industries in Nottingham. Construction actually finished in the summer and it opened to students at the start of the academic year, but now an official opening party has been held by the university. It was launched by Pulitzer Prize-winning artist Simon Starling and NTU graduates on Wednesday evening. Looks fabulous, doesn't it? Now, time for our next chat, and we are talking quite literally about bridging the gap as Nottinghamshire Wildlife Trust has announced a new fundraising campaign to repair the Works Bridge at the Attenborough Nature Reserve. This bridge has been at the site since it was formerly gravel pits and before the Trust turned it into one of their 40 nature reserves. But last year, the bridge was closed off after inspectors deemed it unsafe, causing frustration and difficulty for both the staff and the visitors. The Trust is now trying to raise £200,000 to construct the new bridge. And here to tell us how is Erin McDade from the Trust. Thank you very much for joining me. So remind us what happened to this bridge.
Essentially, the bridge is one of a number of bridges across the nature reserve that we inherited when we purchased the site after our successful appeal to buy it as a permanent Wildlife Trust nature reserve. After we bought the site, we knew we'd have to invest in the infrastructure. We knew that a number of those bridges would need either replacing, upgrading or repairing. As part of the work to review that and the long-term costs and the best approaches, during our inspection, it was deemed to be unsafe. It had been closed previously. It is a bridleway. It had been downgraded to a footpath. Yeah. Before we bought the reserve, we insisted that there were some repairs done so we could reopen it, and we'd hoped those repairs would last longer than they have. But when we found it was actually unsafe to to use, we had no option but to close it. And since then we've been looking at various options. We've explored options around possible rerouting, possible of a bund sort of actually filling in the gap rather than bridging the gap. But in the longer term, considering the engineering requirements on the site, sensitivity of the site and the increased flooding, we think a new bridge is actually the best permanent solution.
And of course, we're looking at the pictures of it here. Like, I love Astonbury Nature Reserve. I love going around, and I love the fact there are circular walks, and that's one of the bridges on the circular walk, isn't it?
It's one of the main routes. It's been a real issue for us. It's been very frustrating. It's been a long frustration for people, particularly wanting to use it as a bridleway. So we knew we'd got that issue when we bought the reserve. It wasn't a surprise. It's just the timing. We'd hoped to actually restore and sort this issue out along with other major infrastructure investment over the next few years. But we've had to obviously bring that forward for this bridge because, as you can see, it's completely beyond repair, which is why we've got to replace it, and we are absolutely determined to restore the public bridleway, the right of way.
So talk to us about the new bridge. How much is it going to cost?
At the moment, it's budgeted to be around about £375,000. We have got some major pledges.
Oh, we can see a lovely picture of what the
pledges
new bridge should look like.
Pledges from partners and donors. We've also allocated around £85,000 of our sort of own finances to that project. So that's where we're looking to bridge the gap. We need to raise about £200,000. We are committed to delivering the bridge, but if we can't raise that £200,000, it will, as a charity, it will obviously have an impact on the other work we can do around the county. So obviously we know people love Attenborough, many people visit, hundreds of thousands of people visit, but actually if we can't raise all of that funds, it will impact on our work around the county. So if people can support us in any way, it would help, because we have our other nature reserves across Nottinghamshire, but also all the work we do in the planning system, all the work we do in terms of making sure people can access nature could all be impacted. But so we're doing everything we can, so we're applying for things like grants, and obviously with this public fundraising now, we're getting tremendous support at the moment.
And we'll talk more about that in a second. And I think sort of the reaction that I'm imagining people will have who are watching this at home was probably the same reaction of me, of going, blimey, that's expensive for a bridge. But I don't know anything about building bridges, but in terms of building a bridge, that's actually quite reasonable, I'm told.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. There's no getting away from it. And as a charity, in challenging times, it is a real lot of money. One of the reasons it's taken us a while to come up with our solution is because we didn't want to spend any more than we have to on this project. So we've been really careful to ensure we've got a good, sustainable and financially sound solution. So yeah, we are confident. We're working with real experts on actually the construction of the bridge, and we've consulted many different companies and engineers over that period. So we are convinced it is the best approach. We don't want to be looking at this again in 5 or 10 or 20 years' time. We want a long-term permanent solution.
So the fundraising for this extra 200,000 started on Friday, and already it's going very well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We've put, some of the grant bids in as well, and we'll continue to do that. We're looking at all the possible options, but the public element, at the moment, we're looking to raise £30,000 from that, and we've got over £6,000 towards that just since last Friday. So over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be adding new elements to that, putting more information out on site and reaching out to different groups. But yeah, the response so far has been great. We've just spotted online, we've just had another £500 donation today. So amazing. Yeah, we're asking anybody that cares about Attenborough to back us. Obviously, there is, people are aware that when we had the appeal to raise the money to buy the nature reserve, we did raise more money than we needed to actually purchase that reserve. But over the last 4 years, that money has actually been spent on caring for the nature reserve, investing in the reserve and the facilities. And as people are aware, the last 4 years have been a hugely challenging time. And obviously a lot of the income we would normally expect to generate on site through our trading activity has been massively reduced. So we haven't actually had the other income coming in over that period. So that money that we did raise over and above the purchase appeal has now been spent, but as I say, we have allocated £85,000 of our own resources to this, and we are committed to delivering it.
And just really quickly, because we're running out of time, how can people donate?
Best thing to do is just drop straight onto our website, which is nottinghamshirewildlife.org.
I shall be doing that because I want a little piece of that bridge.
Erin,
thank you very much for your time today. Moving on now, and last night people from across one of Nottinghamshire's boroughs who've given back to the community were celebrated at the Pride of Gedling Awards. People from Netherfield to Ravenshead were recognised for their selfless good deeds, and Sam Jones went along to hear some of their inspiring stories.
Bonfire night may have come and gone, but last night fireworks and sparkles were everywhere in the Arnold Civic Centre as it geared up for the 9th annual Pride of Gedling Awards. More than 120 nominations were carefully cut down to just 17, spread across 6 different categories. There was also an overall winner of the night, which went to the Mapley and Arnold Rotary Club. They've provided literacy projects to schools, given support to food banks, maintained the gardens at Hayward House Hospice, and supported so many other charitable causes in the area.
We've said this evening, the Rotary Club's been helping out for 35 years, and it's the first time we've ever had any recognition like this. This is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. But the good thing about it was there were so many other charities here that we've helped along the way, which made it a really special evening, I think, for us.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll pretend that we've not won, and then we'll just casually put them and give them to the president and let him tell everybody about it. Yeah. I hope they're going to buy us a drink when that happens.
Among the award categories were the Young Person of the Year Award, Business in the Community and Community Hero Award. The latter award was won by Ian West for his continuous efforts to improve his area by litter picking and gardening. He even recently took part in a sponsored walk from the city to Portugal, which meant he wasn't able to collect the accolade for himself, but his brother Simon was proud to receive it for him.
Well, his catchphrase is fabulous, so he'll just say it's fabulous. Yeah.
With so many great causes on show, lots of tissues were needed in an emotional evening. The winners of the Inspirational Healthy Lifestyle Award positively empowered kids said their support is needed now more than ever.
We actually formed just before lockdown, and so we were, thrown right in at the deep end, but at a time when we were really needed, and we seem to have gone from one thing to another. But I think what we're doing, is absolutely essential to people. And I think what all of these things are doing, the positive side of it, is that it allows people to have these conversations more easily.
Young people often struggle with their mental health because they don't understand, there's no education around it for them, and we want to really help them to be proactive with their mental health, because then they're empowered to know what to do.
This group of wonderful and compassionate people is just a glimpse into the community here and across the county. They take pride in Gedling, a borough that's reflected it right back at them. Sam Jones for Notts TV.
Oh, thanks, Sam. It's such a great event, isn't it? Time now for your sports, and we are starting with Notts County because the Pies are back in League Two action this weekend when they travel north to face Yorkshire side Doncaster Rovers. The sides are separated by 1 place and 2 points in the table, with County set in 3rd and Doncaster just below in 4th place. The Pies are unbeaten in their past 4 league games, with 2 wins and 2 draws, though both draws have been away from home. Doncaster, meanwhile, beat Bradford away last time out in League Two. And Mansfield are also back in league action this weekend when they face Wrexham, but they'll then have a 2-week rest due to the international break. The clubs confirmed their game with Leyton Orient, originally scheduled for Saturday, November the 16th, won't be going ahead as planned because of several international call-ups to their squad. And that includes Australian international Keanu Bacchus and New Zealand's Ben Waine. It's the club's 3rd postponed fixture because of the international games so far this season. And we're sticking with the international break, and Forest midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White has again been called up to the England squad. It's the 3rd time the Reds' number 10 has been called up to the three-line squad, though he had to pull out through injury last time out. It'll be the last squad led by interim head coach Lee Carsley before he returns to the under-21s, and former Chelsea manager Tommy Tuchel takes over the senior side in January. Time for your Thursday picture of the day. Nearly got the day wrong then. An awesome aerial shot of the former Radcliffe on-Saw power station. Look at that, thanks to Pete's Paramotors and Nottingham Now and Then for this. And as for your weather, it's getting colder, dropping down to 7 degrees tonight. Tomorrow will bring more overcast skies with highs of 10 and lows of 7. Looking ahead to Friday, and we'll be once again seeing some cloudy skies for most of the day with a high of 10 and a low of 8. Okay, let's take another short break, but when we get back, we are meeting one of the singing stars, bringing an opera performance to Nottingham later this month. See you in a sec. Hello, welcome back to Notts Today with me, Emma Caldwell. Happy Thursday. Here's some more of your news headlines. First, and the Notts Borough Council said it's confident it will bridge a projected £4 million funding gap over the coming years. Broxtowe Borough Council is forecasting a multi-million pound deficit between now and 2029, but has promised to take a prudent approach to its finances to meet the challenge. The comments came during a recent cabinet meeting when councillors said they're still waiting to hear from the government what their financial settlement will be for grant funding. Ways of plugging the gap could include tax rises and efficiencies. Next, and an appeal over rejected plans to build a solar farm in Ashfield have been dismissed. The 28-acre site on Caldwell Road at the border of Sutton and Mansfield was the subject of an application by Hamilton Solar Limited 2 years ago. However, plans were turned down by Ashfield District Council because of concerns about the countryside and because it could impact a nearby monument dating back to the Bronze Age. The developer appealed the plans to the government's planning inspectorate, but inspectors have sided with the council. Right, let's see what you can get up to this Thursday with our What's On guide. First, and this one for the football fans, head to the Victory Club for an evening with club legends Nigel Clough and Gary Birtles, who promise an evening of stories, laughter and a raffle for memorabilia too. Sounds fab. That starts at 7:30. Tickets are £30. Or maybe you fancy yourself as a poet, well, you can head to the Central Library in Nottingham for the Diamonds and Rust Poetry Workshops, where you can write, perform and talk all things poetry. It starts at 6:30 and tickets are £7. And if you're feeling extra creative, well, the Bead Shop on Market Street has their jewellery making workshop to help build your confidence with wire work, ideal for beginners. That's starting soon but runs until 8 p.m. Tickets for that are £22. Whatever you're doing, have a fantastic Thursday night. Next, moving on. And do you consider yourself a fan of the opera? Or maybe you've never seen one, but you've always wanted to. Well, one of the greatest operas will be coming to Nottingham's Theatre Royal next month. The Magic Flute was written in 1791 by renowned composer Mozart himself and is one of the best examples of Songspiel, which means it includes singing and speaking. Something, of course, that takes some big lungs to fill, and that is something our next guest fortunately has. Anna Dennis has performed all over the globe and is the recipient of the Royal Philharmonic Society's Singer Award. She is going to be playing the iconic Queen of the Night. But before we chat to Anna, let's take a little look at the show. It looks so fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, there are, some of that music I think people will recognise without even realising where they recognise it from. But for people who maybe aren't familiar with the Magic Flute, what can you tell us about it?
It's a sort of fantasy adventure story. There's, as you said, the Singspiel, this kind of thing where there's talking and there's singing. It makes it, and the characters who are very lively and very varied, it makes it almost slightly like an olden days pantomime, or it's really exciting. There are funny characters, there are frightening characters, and some of the people who you think are good turn out not to be good, and the other way round. And it's just full of amazing music and in this production extraordinary visual treats as well.
Oh, I love that. So tell us a little bit more about your character, the Queen of the Night.
Well, the Queen of the Night traditionally has been presented, I mean, she has this very angry, very dramatic music, and she there's something of the archetypal sort of evil queen about her. But in fact, in terms of the narrative, she's had her daughter kidnapped, she's had her power sort of taken away from her, and she's desperate to be reunited with her daughter. And I think she's suffering from trauma. And I'm in my performance, I'm trying to bring a bit more humanity to her, because traditionally she's like this angry, furious, evil character. And I think it's more complicated than that.
And I think there is some sympathy that you can kind of find with her at some points as well. Now, we were just saying this was written by Shakespeare in 1791. It's the third most frequently, who did I say? Mozart. I said Shakespeare.
By Chickanaid. Yeah, the man who wrote the text was called Chickanaid.
Oh dear, not Shakespeare, Mozart. Beg your pardon. It was the third most frequently performed opera worldwide. What do you think it is that still, even now, just keeps audiences so engrossed in this?
I think that it deals with these questions of good and evil, these sort of fundamentals, and about trust and love and keeping a centre. The characters needing to, through their quest, keep a centre of love and faith, and as we follow them through this adventure, there's just some of the most sublime music that you'll hear. And no matter how many times I've heard the score, there are moments that every time I hear them, whether I'm backstage having my wig adjusted or whether I'm listening just in the wings, they make me cry each time because they're profound and they're sublime, but there's also just a sort of immediacy and simplicity to Mozart's vision. And you have these characters like Papageno, who's this wonderful comic, warm character, and then these very sort of grand. It's a real spectrum of all sorts of human emotions. And yeah, it's just so full of colour.
Oh, I am sold on this. Remind us when you're coming to Nottingham.
We are coming to Nottingham, and this is the thing about being on tour. You always know where you are at the moment, and I'm in Newcastle at the moment, but it's the week after next. It's the Friday and Saturday. Not next Friday and Saturday, but the Friday and Saturday after that. So
Wonderful.
If you can provide what those dates are.
I absolutely can. All the details are on the Theatre Royal's website. So Anna, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're very much looking forward to seeing that. Definitely from Mozart, not Shakespeare. Now, a Nottingham hospice, which supports its residents through terminal illnesses with sessions like wellbeing and counselling, has just launched its Light Up a Life appeal. Nottinghamshire Hospice on Woodborough Road is giving local people a chance to shine a light on the lives of loved ones who have died through donations towards the hospice's vital care. These funds will help the service to continue its incredible work, including help for one man who started going there with his wife before becoming reliant on the service himself. Jordan Guerrero reports.
This is a place for many to spend the final months of their lives with a smile on their face, playing card games, quizzes and some all-important one-to-one counselling too. The hospice has launched its biggest campaign of the year in a push to get more donations during a tough winter period. Frank Shaw, one of their longest serving members, started coming here with his late wife during her tough last moments facing breast cancer. She died in February 2022, and since then Frank's been dealing with facial cancer and serious motor neuron disease of his own too. He says coming here always reminds him of the fond memories he shared with his wife, with the hospice's upcoming appeal an emotional one for him.
My wife is never out of my thoughts anyway. And it takes me back. I get a bit emotional. I can't help it. But yes, it does. And it helps me with her memories and the memories that we had. The happy times here, as well as being at home with her. We're all in the same boat. We've all been through grief, and we're there together, grieving, but in a nice way, remembering them. And that's what it's all about.
Part of the appeal means people can sponsor a star dedicated to a loved one. These will be on display in the installation for others to learn more about people's stories.
This year we've got a dedicated night sky, so you can sponsor a star to go into that sky, which would have the person's name in memory. But also we're having an installation within the hospice that, again, once you dedicate that name to the person, it will be in the hospice.
Sessions just like this one requires funding to run every week. And while the appeal doesn't have a target, the hospice needs to raise £4 million to stay afloat, with most of its funding coming from donations.
It costs over $4 million a year to run our services, and that's only set to increase with inflation and the effects of the budget that was announced recently as well. So we're looking to raise as much as possible through Light Up a Life, and it's a really great chance for people to give back and remember their loved ones at the same time.
Members here continue to urge the public to donate, so grief can stay at bay and they can cherish little things in life.
That's the thing about this place. The one thing that you won't find here is a miserable face. Never. Ever.
Jordan Guerrero for Knots TV.
Thanks, Jordan. Right, let's take some more of your news headlines now. First, and 4 Knots councils will receive combined funding of nearly £300,000 to support rough sleepers this winter. Ashfield, Bassetlaw, Mansfield and Nottingham councils will share the cash, with the bulk of £172,000 going to the City Council. Mansfield is getting 70 grand, whilst Ashfield and Bassetlaw councils are getting just short of £30,000 each. The cash is from the government and is part of a £10 million national package to tackle homelessness over the winter months. Next, and police arrested 3 people following a spate of violent disorders across Newark. Officers say a series of incidents occurred on bonfire night, including a man being punched by a group at 4:50 p.m. A separate report also said the same group were threatening others with a knife around Cartergate in the town centre too. They're linking it to a separate incident 11 days earlier when a man in his 60s was pushed to the ground in the market square. 2 17-year-old boys and an 18-year-old man have been arrested. All right, one final break on the way, but when we get back, we are heading to a social mobility session aimed at keeping the elderly warm, happy and fed. Plus, we're going to be finding out why new research is addressing hospital-related skin injuries in people with darker skin. All that's on the way in just a few minutes, so grab yourself a cup of tea. We'll see you in just a sec. Bye-bye. Hello, welcome back to Knots Today with me, Emma Caldwell. I hope you're well. Here's some more of your news headlines. First, and more life-saving defibrillators have been installed across venues in the city centre. The devices, which use an electric charge to restart people's hearts after cardiac arrest, have been placed in 4 new Nottingham locations, and that includes the National Ice Arena, the Mercure Hotel, Marks & Spencer and Binks Yard. They're being funded by City Business Improvement District. It's in Nottingham, and take the number of city centre devices funded by the organisation to 10. Next, and new measures for town centre car parks in Bingham will come into effect from next week following previous delays and technical problems. The measures include 2 hours of free parking at Newgate Street and Needham Streets, with a third hour costing £1. The measures will apply between 8 in the morning and 6 in the evening, Monday to Sunday, and were due to come into effect last month. However, pay and display machines didn't work, so the measures will now come into place on Tuesday, November the 12th. Moving on now, and elderly people from across the city have said they'd struggle to face the coming winter without the vital support of charities offering warm spaces and a chance to beat loneliness. They're being supported by the Renewal Trust in St Anne's, which offers a space every Wednesday to come together, get a hot meal, play bingo and keep warm. And with recent cuts to winter fuel allowances, these feel-good gold sessions are taking on a new purpose too. Harrison Evans reports.
As the winter months approach, many across Knots will soon be turning up the heat in their homes. However, for people struggling to make ends meet, alternatives may be needed to keep them and their loved ones warm. And whether that's through the heating in a building or simply a hot meal and a chat, new projects are on offer to support people this winter. That's one of the missions of the Renewal Trust in St Anne's. They're running feel-good gold sessions like this one to offer special programmes for older people. On offer are workshops on energy saving tips, a warm space for them to visit each week, or simply somewhere to get a warm meal. And for many like Valerie Young, sessions like this are becoming a lifeline.
Last year I signed up and I've been coming ever since then. We get a lift down here, the minibus comes and pick us up, and then we come down, socialise, and then we have a meal, play bingo, quizzes, and then we go home again. all happy. If anybody wants me on this day, I'm available on this day. Don't call me on Wednesday because I'm at luncheon club on Wednesday. I work everything around it, so I look forward to coming over here because that's my only time that I get out and socialise.
The Trust runs these weekly sessions every Wednesday from its base off Carlton Road. Part of its services involve financial advice following the recent cut to the winter fuel allowance. That's a loss of up to £300 towards soaring bills for 90% of Notts pensioners. Our community leader Nick Williams says that the elderly's lack of internet know-how sometimes makes it hard to spread their message to the right audience.
I think there's lots of information out there. You look everywhere, you can see there's people trying to give that information, but it all doesn't always get to the right people. We rely heavily on social media and things like that. Well, some of our older people don't have access to social media or just aren't of the generation to be able to use it. So it is really important that we still give that advice, but also sometimes giving it in a way that they can understand it and access it.
The Renewal Trust is running services like this to ensure that some pensioners have a place that's warm and welcome this winter. Harrison Evans for Notts TV.
Well, it's time for our last chat of the show now, and researchers at Nottingham University Hospitals are leading a joint study with colleagues in Leicester to prevent pressure injuries on children and young people with dark skin tones. These sores can be caused by some medical equipment like casts and wheelchairs, but research suggests those with darker skin tones are more likely to have these injuries due to the current risk assessment not being suited to multiple skin tones. The study wants to ensure hospitals and their tools of care are better suited for our diverse communities. Dr. Takawera Marafu from NUH is here to tell us more. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, talk to us more about why this research was needed.
So, first of all, thank you for having me tonight.
Totally welcome.
So, the primary reason why this research is needed is really it came through from our care priority discussions with parents and children and young people, and also our commitment at NUH for us to deliver or to improve the care that we give to our children and young people who are in our care. And the aspect of pressure injury in this case is in children and young people with dark skin tones is because whenever some children and young people or patients are admitted to hospital, what we do, pressure injury assessment is part of the normal standard care. However, what we identified is that the tools, which is really the assessment criteria that we use, the way that they were developed, children and young people with dark skin tones were underrepresented in those tools, in the way those tools were developed. So our research study, which we are doing now, is for us really to measure the accuracy, or to ensure that all the tools or all the assessments that we're doing, they are relevant and also they are fit for purpose for all the community that was children, young people, the diverse population that we serve.
Absolutely. And when we talk about pressure injuries, what do you mean by that?
So, in simple terms, when
keep
we
it simple.
That's yes, pressure injuries is when a sore develops basically because of pressure. So, as a good example, sometimes why people develop pressure injuries when they come in hospital is because they are sick and they are spending most of the time in bed. So as a result, lying in bed will actually cause some pressure on your skin. And also sometimes it's because the medical equipment that they are attached to. So you find that the skin is too sensitive, particularly for children, young people, is fragile, they're still developing. So those kinds of pressures will sometimes cause the pressure injury, so we call them pressure injuries or pressure sores or bed sores.
Yes.
So people, use different terminologies for that.
So when did the research start and how long will it take?
So the research is started already, and it's planned to run for 18 months. And at the moment, we'll be starting, so there are two stages for this research. First of all, which will be involving all the children, young people, and parents and healthcare professionals. So we'll look at how the assessment we are doing at the moment, how suitable it is, and then we will change if it is required. And then the stage 2 for this study, which will be done across 10 sites, across 10 NHS trust sites across England, will be running for from next year. So.
And what are are you hoping that the research will show you in terms of making a change to how people are treated in hospital?
Well, our hope is actually really, as I've said earlier, is actually really to try and improve the delivery of care that we are giving to these children, young people. So we're looking at the assessment. So the end outcome that we want is to have a tool or a process of assessing pressure injuries that is actually fit for all the children, young people who are in our care, or all the communities that actually I will look after.
Do you know what? It's honestly, some of the stuff that comes out of Nottingham is so interesting. Thank you so much for coming to tell us about that. And there'll be people who maybe have young people in hospital at the moment, or have recently been in, or just generally interested in this. Where can we find out more information about the study and kind of keep our eye on it?
I think most of the information, if you go onto our website, onto the NUH website, you get some of the information. And also just to say, we will actually put some of the information on Twitter. We can follow the NUH Twitter accounts next year for us when we're recruiting and for people who are interested to participate in the study.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So many interesting chats on this show, aren't there? Now, if you missed last night's episode of Team Talk, do not despair. You can now watch it on demand at notstv.com or on our official YouTube channel. Oh, yes, we do. Parts of the discussion was predicting where Nottingham Forest will finish this season. Take a look at this.
Come the end of the season, if Forest have finished 10th or 9th or 8th, or whatever, but 10th, I'll go. Well done, Nottingham Forest.
Kelvin, where's your ceiling?
I said around 13th at the start of the season. I thought, I think obviously with how they're playing now, you know, you look above that. If they finished, you know, where Chaz says 10th to 8th, I wouldn't be surprised with how they're playing now. I wouldn't be like, oh, it's been a lucky season. I'd be like, well, yeah, well deserved. But I think, again, with Chaz, let's not get carried away. I know it's 10 games and people say, well, it's not just 2 or 3 games now, it's 10. I understand that, but, you know, I agree with John. December's a massive, massive period for every football club, whatever you're playing for, at the top of the table or the bottom. If you get through that, especially with injuries, because there's a lot of games, the lads coming back, like Chaz says, will make a big difference. So, you know, I'll go with Chaz. If 10th and anywhere above, you know, is a bonus, but 10th would be a really good season for Forest.
John, you're going to tell me Europe, aren't you?
No. Oh dear.
I'm gonna.
You got whiskey in there? No. Listen, you never know. Look what happened to Leicester. Look what happened to Leicester a few years ago.
Oh, sorry.
Listen, you never know.
Yeah, you're saying
Don't
this.
be sorry.
Look what happened when Nuno was manager of Wolves. I'm going to
Yes,
say. No, I'm
yes.
not. Forget Leicester and top of the table.
Love me a bit of Team Talk. Last look at your picture of the day now, and an awesome aerial shot. Look at that, of the former Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station. Thank you so much to Pete's Paramotors and Nottingham Now and Then for that gorgeousness. Last glance at your weather now. It's getting a lot colder, dropping down to 7 degrees tonight. Tomorrow will bring more overcast skies with highs of 10, lows again of 7, and looking ahead to Friday, we'll once again be seeing some cloudy skies for most of the day, highs of 10 and lows of 8. A blanket watching the telly tonight on the sofa, I think. Well, that is the end of today's show. Thank you as always to our great guests. Some really interesting chats today. I am going to be back at the same time tomorrow to do it all over again, and of course Friday's show as well, which just makes everything that little bit better. But for now, from me and the rest of the team, whatever you're doing with your evening, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you same time tomorrow. But for now, I'm Emma Caldwell. Bye-bye.